this is why you don't drive classic cars in the winter up north. Oh boy. Yeah, I just got the Caddy back from the shop on the south side of Indianapolis here. And look at all the salt just from driving it home. I think it also sat outside the shop a little bit. Yeah, that is the not good stuff. That salt just plays hell with this old metal. So I will, even though it's, as you can see, pretty cold out, I will have to see about at least doing like a quick wipe off of this with just like wet a sponge with some soap, because whoo. But she's driving real well. Yeah, just watch out for that dirty stuff. So this was the biggest issue that the Cadillac was back in the shop for, was, if you remember from my trouble video from, gosh, almost a couple of years ago now, I had that issue of the choke was just stuck. It just did not want to kick off. I would drive it on the highway and it would still be on. I could like rev it up and get it to knock off, but then as soon as I gave it more throttle, it would come back on. So as you can see here, we have running really nice and purdy and smooth in idle, the choke off. And it turned out what it was the choke tube inside the carb. I don't have the air cleaner on here, but that's something I will need to investigate. They say apparently on these, the choke tube will get clogged and you just have to clean it out periodically. So I'm hoping that's something that I can take care of myself. But as you can see, very nice, smooth idle here. Just absolutely purring. So hopefully, gosh, at least for the time being, I've got that choke issue addressed. And I'm hoping with my own investigation and education, I can learn how to clean it out myself. Another thing I had them check out at the shop was I had them reconnect the radio and to the antenna and power source. I don't know if people had seen, probably, but I had that cord was like laying down here on the ground for a long time. They had disconnected it some years ago when we were working on something or other, and I asked them just to reconnect it. I'm not getting any power to the radio here. Strangely, the antenna, which used to go up and down on its own, is not doing that anymore. That's actually a control here where you pull out and push in. That was working previously. The antenna would actually go up and down, and now it's not. They said they put a power to it and it's not working, so I don't know if they just gave up the ghost at some point. So I was thinking about all that, and I think I've kind of made the decision that I'm not gonna do anything with restoring the radio, at least in the short term. It can be surprisingly expensive and a pain in the rear end to replace these radios, and I don't want to go the route of putting in something completely different. I wanted to keep it the original AM radio. But so it looks factory, and that looks good to me. So I think I'm just going to keep it. I don't have a working radio in my Mustang, and there was no radio that came in the truck. So I think we're just going to have a pleasant, aesthetically but non-functional radio here. Again, at least in the short term, if I suddenly come into a bunch of money and inspiration, maybe we'll revisit it. A couple other things here that we did on the Cadillac while I was in the shop was, you may remember one of my previous video, I addressed the sun visors. I thought I had it licked, but it was still dropping down on me, so they took a look. They said they just tightened the screw, which that's all I did, so I don't have high hopes that that's going to stay fixed. Let's see. Oh, I had this. My son slammed the door really hard getting out of the car, and that window crank just popped right off. We saw about fixing it, but it turns out it's pretty stripped inside. So they would have had to rebuild this whole mechanism in there for that, which I'm not prepared to do at this point. So we just had them put it back on there. And the last, and well, you may remember if you've been following this channel a lot, and thank you for doing so, is that somewhere, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I talked about the instrument cluster and how I had had it rebuilt, but it was flaking off some paint, and they called me up and said, would you like us to paint it? And they quoted me a price to do it, which was double the cost of rebuilding it. I don't think I spoke the numbers last time, but it was $250 to rebuild it, and they wanted another $250 to repaint it, which I thought was ridiculous, just to paint something. So of course I let it go, and they brought it back to me. And if you remember in the previous video, the instrument panel looked like stuff. Most of the paint flecked off while they were handling it. I don't know if they were being nasty and purposefully getting it to come off, but you remember I showed you how nasty it looked. So yes, while I was in there, I said to the guys, do you feel like going in there and pulling that instrument cluster and repainting it? And they said they would do it. And again, I'm not going to be coy with the numbers, since I'm not a mechanic. I'm not doing most of this work myself. It cost $450 to have them pull the instrument cluster, repaint it, and put it back in. So me, with my miserly ways, trying to save a little money, ended up spending almost twice as much. But as minor as it is, gosh, I tell you what, it really looks so much better just every time I'm looking at the instrument cluster, because of course as you're driving, you're constantly looking at that, and to know that it's not completely shitty does my heart warm. So another one of those lessons of the old car game. When you're trying to save money in the short term, you're probably going to spend more in the long term. Well, that's my latest adventure with the Cadillac. We should have some more stuff to do here pretty soon. Having fun with it, hopefully again. Gosh, it just seems like I've not been able to actually drive this car very much the last couple of years. And of course now we're here, dead of winter in Indiana. So you really do not want to get these cars on the road. So maybe wait for spring, but I'm hoping we can at least do some fun things in the garage while we're waiting for things to warm up again. But anyway, here she's gonna go back into the garage, hibernate a little. I do appreciate you watching.